everyone out there in YouTube land, and welcome back to my channel and a new video. I hope that you are all doing well, and today I thought I would show you a bit of a process of me painting a very large painting. This canvas is 150 centimeters by 120 centimeters, so if I turn it up the other way it would actually be bigger than me because I'm only small. I'm a short ass. So this is a very big piece, and I thought that it would be interesting for you guys to sort of watch me create on such a big painting, because I think most of the other videos I've shown here on YouTube have all been fairly small artworks. But when I'm painting in my studio, I tend to paint quite large. So although this artwork itself is quite large, it's probably on the larger side, a lot of the artworks that I create in my studio are quite big like this. So this is what I tend to be painting when I'm in my studio. Anyway, while I was painting this, I thought that it would be interesting for me to talk a little bit about my colour choices and how I decide what colours to use in my artworks. I often get asked this by students of mine and also on Instagram. So yeah, I thought I'd just run through some, information about how I come up with colours. So, I come up with colour inspiration for my artwork in a few different ways. For this particular piece, I actually drew my inspiration for the colours I was going to use from this artwork by Paris Bonnard. I don't think I can pronounce that properly. Paris Bonnard? Anyway, from that artwork. And so, yeah, I really love the pastel colours, especially that really bright yellow. And so I pre-mixed some colours based on what I saw in this artwork, and I chose to use them as a limited palette. So I get a lot of inspiration from Pinterest, and I'm sure everyone is familiar with Pinterest by now, but if you're not, there is it's basically a free website that you can go to and use to collect images from the internet. So you can create collections or boards and catalogue images and refer back to them later. So you can create any category you like and add inspiration images into that category. So I have a board just purely for colour palettes, and this is a collection of all different colour palettes and combinations that inspire me and that I would like to use in artworks. A lot of them come from design and interior websites, and some follow certain trends and others are just based on inspiration images. But if I'm stuck for ideas or I want to try something new, then this is where I tend to go to first, and I will scroll through this collection that I have and pick out some ideas. I also sometimes use old artworks of my own as colour inspiration, so I will look through old paintings that I've done and that I've liked the colours of, or that seem to have been, quite popular in regards to colours, and I will use those as inspiration. So I'll draw the same colours out and I'll use them again. Also, like for today's artwork, I sometimes use other artworks from old masters as inspiration. I love Impressionist art and Fauvist art, and I feel that they had such beautiful colour choices, and I often go through old masters artworks on Pinterest and also on, what's it called? That website where you can look at art. ArtWiki. WikiArt, that's what it's called, WikiArt. That's a website, again, online, and it has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of old masters artworks. It's all categorized. So, for example, you could look up Monet, and a whole bunch of his artworks have all been added to WikiArt in like high resolution. So you can zoom right into them and look at them and study them. So I often go there and look up artists that I admire and pick colours out of artworks that they have used to sort of help me. Usually it's just a starting point. So I will, draw out a few colours and use those colours to start, and then it will build up from there. So I work with limited palettes a lot. If you have watched any of my Skillshare classes, and there is a link in the description, you'll know that I'm always banging on about the benefits of limited palettes and how great they are. And a limited palette basically means that you just choose, usually for me it's no more than 4 or 5 colours, and you just base your artwork around those colours. So you can mix those colours together to create new colours, but usually they've all got the same basic colours as an undertone, and that's what using a limited palette means. So it's a really good way of making your artwork look harmonious, because all the colours that you're mixing for that artwork are coming from the same base colours. So generally speaking, my favourite limited palette combination is probably, it's a primary palette, so it would include phthalo blue, quinacridone magenta, lemon yellow and white. I use that combination of colours a lot, and that's why I tend to have quite a lot of vibrant looking paintings, because those colours are quite high key and quite vibrant colours, and so the colours that I then mix from them are quite vibrant. But yeah, that's probably a basic go-to palette that I tend to reach for. And yeah, I mean, I get inspiration for colours from a lot of places. You know, sometimes it's just from nature, or from, if I am working from a reference image, it'll come directly from the reference image. So it sort of comes from all over the place. But yeah, that's just a bit of an idea of where I tend to get colours from. So as you can see, with the progress of this painting, it's sort of coming along a bit now, and I just start building up the layers. So you'll notice that in the beginning I just blocked in a rough idea of where I wanted the colours to be, to get, you know, a bit of depth and to break up all those fields and paddocks. And so once I had those basic colours blocked in, I then come back on top and work in a bit more detail, and also just make the painting a little bit more expressive. So I always make sure that there's a really good balance of contrast in my paintings. So you'll notice that I did put in a lot of those dark trees, and you know, it's really important to sort of have a variety of values and contrast. That's probably one of the most important parts of painting that I can really, you know, tell you about, is to make sure that you have values that are, you know, contrasting. So that means that you have like lights and darks. And so you notice that I sort of put down all of the base colours, and then I went in and put those darks in. And so now that those dark trees are in, and that's going to be my darkest dark colours, I can now work the values based on those, you know, everywhere else. So now it's just a matter of building up the different layers and working on the paintings. And I work really quickly. Like, you'll notice that, you know, even though this is a very big canvas, I painted this from start to finish alla prima, so that means all in one go, and it probably took me maybe 4 hours, 5 hours. I work really instinctually, so I don't ponder too much. I just put the paint down, and if I feel like, you know, after a little while that was a bad choice, or the colour was in the wrong spot, then I just change it. And I'm constantly going over. So you can see that, you know, even in this little sped up part, you can see I'll add, you know, colours, and then I'll take those colours away, and then I'll add more colours on top, and I'll take that colour away. So it's this constant back and forth, but that's what creates all of the depth and the texture and the interest into the painting. So I'm constantly adjusting values. So I'm adding in the lighter blue on top, and then I go back in and add darker again, and then lighter again. And that whole process happens really quickly, because I try not to think about it too much. I try not to overanalyze or question or doubt my choices. I just let myself paint. And I find that by doing it that way, the decisions kind of resolve themselves. And I usually find that if I do second guess myself or doubt what I've put down and then change it right away, usually I'll look back and regret that decision and wish that I had just left it how that initial mark was and how I instinctually put it down to begin with. Because usually I make those decisions because I'm making them quickly. They're usually the right decision, but the more I think about it, the more I doubt myself and change it, and then I end up regretting it. So I've learned over the years to just put it down and then leave it. And if after a few days it's really bothering me still, I will go back and change elements, but usually I don't. So you can see that I wanted this field in the foreground to be quite loose and really sort of wild, and I wanted to have lots of sort of grassy kind of effects. So even though this is sped up quite a bit, obviously, I was still painting this quite quickly because I really like those drippy, happy accidents that kind of happen when you're not really paying too much attention to what you're doing. You're just slapping the colour down. And yeah, this is just how I paint. And it's obviously a lot easier to do this on such a large canvas. Painting in this really loose, expressive way on a small canvas can be really challenging because you just don't have enough room to splash that paint around. So when I do pull out these really big canvases, I find that I can be really expressive with them. And once I, start to get a feeling of the overall painting and everything's sort of working, then I can go in and adjust things like, for example, I'm just neatening up some of these paddocks and adding in some lighter colours. I always make sure that there's a variety of brush strokes. So you can see that, the strokes are all going in different places. The planes of the fields are going in one direction and the trees are going in another, just to get that movement and feeling behind it all. So yeah, I'm just adding in little details here and there. But yeah, look, I work really quickly, and, that's because I have a lot of experience painting in this way. I am able to trust my decisions because I have done this so many times now that I kind of know. But to get to this point where I can paint something this large in such a short amount of time has taken a very long time. I'm talking like years of practice. So, don't be thinking, that looks really easy. It does look easy, but it's just because I've done it so much. So yeah, and look, I really liked how this painting came out. It's funny because I had like a vision in my head about what I wanted it to be, and as usual, that doesn't usually work out, but I ended up being really happy with how it did work out. And I really loved all these flowers and things in the field that I added into the foreground. I really loved the colours. I think the colours worked really nicely. It's like the film kind of doesn't really show the colours true to life. There is a photo at the end that I'll post at the end of this video that shows how the painting actually looks. When I'm filming it, the camera makes it look a lot brighter than it actually is. So it looks like really, well, on my screen anyway, it looks quite high key and bright and a little bit washed out, whereas the actual finished piece has a little bit more depth to the colour. So that's just, a little disclaimer on my behalf. But yeah, anyway, I did a few more little flowers and things, and then I was finished. And I did, when I say that I paint this all in one go, I do let it rest for a few days, and then I come back to it, and I do usually add a few final touches and a few little edits and things before I call it complete. But essentially you can see that the bulk of it was done all in one go. And yeah, so that's how I get really expressive kind of brushstrokes and feelings for the painting. So yeah, and this is how it looks when it's finished. It's yeah, this piece is actually, it actually sold recently, so it's off to a new home, and that always makes me super duper happy. I really loved the depth of this, and especially those darker hills in the background over to the right, which I will, pan over to in a minute. I really love the depth that created. It has this feeling of it, this landscape going on, and almost this, patchwork blanket of warmth and colour in this little valley, and then the coolness of the colours in the far distant hills, and then that rich field and the pathway leading down to it. I don't know, it just has this really magical storybook feel to it, and I really love it. And yeah, so this is what it looked like when it was photographed properly, and it's off to a new home. So that's all for today, and I hope you enjoyed that. And if you have any comments or questions, make sure to, leave a comment below. Also, if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe and give me a bit of a thumbs up, because that helps other people to find my channel. And I hope that you all have a lovely day, and I will see you in my next video.